The island was quiet when Eva stepped off the worn wooden boat, the kind of quiet that carried weight. Not absence of sound, but a presence waiting to be noticed. Waves lapped gently against the shoreline like whispered reminders of time passing. Always. The air was thick with salt and the smell of damp earth, and the horizon glowed with the first blush of twilight. She came alone. No luggage beyond a canvas backpack, no guide. Just a return ticket and a vague promise to herself that this week on the island would be different. A space to breathe, a place to forget, or remember. The villa she'd rented was perched high on the cliffs, its wooden frame half consumed by lush jungle. It had no Wi-Fi, no distractions, just a hammock, a journal, and the sea stretching out like an invitation she didn't yet understand. She had barely set down her pack when she heard the sound. Dry, sharp, the snap of something. Underfoot. Eva turned. A man stood near the edge of the property, shirtless, holding a fishing spear like it belonged to him the way a pen belongs to a writer. He looked like the island had shaped him. Or maybe he had shaped the island. Sun-browned skin, hair bleached at the ends and eyes the color of turbulent water. He didn't speak, neither did she. "I think you're on my path," he said finally, pointing to the narrow trail behind her. His voice was low, calm, like it didn't need to prove anything. She stepped aside. "You staying long?" he asked. "A week?" she said, squinting against the sun now setting behind him. He nodded and moved past her, disappearing down the trail as if she were just another tourist. But something about the moment unsettled her. Not fear, not attraction, but recognition. Like her body remembered something her mind didn't. Later that evening, after unpacking only the essentials, a book of poems, a worn notebook, an old photograph she didn't want to admit still hurt to look at, she found herself walking toward the beach. He was there, crouched near a tide pool, murmuring something to a small crab before letting it skitter away. She should have turned back. Instead, she stepped closer. "You always talk to sea creatures?" she asked. He looked up. "They're better listeners." She smiled, despite herself. "What's your name?" "Cal." "Eva." They shook hands, like old friends pretending to meet for the first time. "Most people come here to escape something," he said, studying her. "You running from or running toward?" Eva hesitated, still deciding. He nodded, like that made perfect sense. They talked until the stars outnumbered the clouds and the tide rolled in cold and slow. She learned he lived off the island year-round, alone except for the wildlife and the occasional tourist he avoided. He said he didn't like noise or questions that had easy answers. She said she didn't either, and that was the first lie she told. When she finally rose to leave, Cal didn't follow, but he watched. "Some people find the island calming," he said. "Others find it unsettling. Depends on what you're carrying." Eva wanted to ask what he saw in her, what weight he thought she bore, but she knew better. Questions like that never got answered the way you wanted. As she climbed the path back to the villa, the wind shifted and brought with it the sharp scent of firewood and something more distant, rain maybe, or change. That night she dreamed of waves pulling her under, but instead of drowning, she breathed. And somewhere on the other side of the island, Cal sat by a small fire, staring into the flames like they whispered secrets only he could hear. Eva woke to the sound of rain tapping on the wooden shutters. It wasn't heavy, just persistent like a thought she couldn't shake. She lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above her, wondering why her chest felt too full for morning. She found herself walking the trail, again barefoot this time, toes brushing against soft earth and roots as gnarled as her thoughts. She didn't know what she was hoping for. Cal, maybe. Or something simpler. Understanding. He was at the cove, shirt-soaked, pulling in a net of silvery fish. The muscles in his back moved like they had learned the rhythm of survival long before they knew comfort. She stood for a moment, watching, before stepping into the scene like an echo. "You keep finding me," he said without turning around. "I don't think I'm trying to." Cal laughed. Quiet. Real. Funny how that works. They cleaned the fish in silence. Eva didn't flinch. When the blood hit her hands, it felt honest. More honest than most things lately. When they sat down beneath a jagged rock overhang, sharing grilled snapper wrapped in banana leaves, Cal studied her. "You're not here for vacation." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "No. You lost someone." Eva froze. The wind stirred. She blinked once. "My fiancé," she said. "Last year. Motorcycle accident. We'd just signed the lease on an apartment we hadn't even unpacked." Cal didn't apologize. She liked that. He just nodded slowly, like a man who knew better than to fill silence with anything less than truth. "You?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "I used to be a marine biologist. Lived in cities. Conferences, grants, long hours. Then my brother died." He paused. "Suicide. Took the ocean with him." Eva's fingers curled into her palm. "I left everything. I couldn't look at the water without seeing him. Then one day I forced myself to dive again. I didn't see him. Just fish and the silence." She looked at him differently now, not with pity but recognition. Two people floating in the wreckage of lives that once had structure. Later, walking back, she stopped him. "Why this island?" she asked. "Because it doesn't ask anything of me." Eva nodded. "But people do. You're not most people." She wanted to laugh or cry. Instead, she stood still, the distance between them humming with something unspoken. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and for a moment, the contact felt like gravity had shifted. She didn't move away. "You scare me a little," she said softly. Cal's thumb hovered near her jaw. "Why?" "Because I came here to let go, not to begin again." He stepped back, the space between them filling with damp air and restraint. "I'm not asking you to begin," he said. "I'm just here." That night, Eva wrote in her journal for the first time in weeks. "There's a man here who doesn't try to fix me, who doesn't see brokenness and panic. He sees waves and lets them pass. But I don't know if that's peace, or just another kind of storm." Sleep didn't come easily. Not because she was restless, but because her body had begun to remember how it felt to want something again, not just physically, but soul deep. And with that came the danger of needing. Outside, the rain turned heavier, washing the island clean. Or maybe not clean, just truer. And somewhere beyond the trees, Cal sat alone by the tide again, staring into the dark like it still had something to say. The next morning brought sun, too bright, too honest. Eva shielded her eyes as she stepped onto the porch, half expecting the world to have changed after what had passed between her and Cal. But the island remained as indifferent as ever. Green, wild, unknowable. She found him later near the mangroves, ankle-deep in water, watching a heron stalk through the shallows. She didn't speak right away. Neither did he. When she finally stepped closer, he glanced at her, just long enough for silence to swell with meaning. "Sleep okay?" he asked. "Sort of," she said. "You?" He gave a small shrug. "Dreams aren't always restful." She nodded, understanding too well. There was a comfort in their quiet, the kind that grows only in the aftermath of exposed pain. But comfort has a fragile shell. By late afternoon, they were hiking inland, past a field of low palms and sun-dappled rocks, toward the volcanic ridge Cal said offered the best view of the island's north curve. It was an impulsive idea, hers, strangely enough, and Cal had looked almost surprised when she suggested it. The climb was steep, but invigorating. At the summit, the sea stretched wide, flecked with sunlit patches, and a single distant sailboat slicing the horizon. Eva turned. To Cal. "I needed this," she said, breathless. "I can tell," he replied, offering her a canteen. "You're starting to look like someone who belongs here." She smiled. For a moment, everything felt suspended, weightless and clear. Then came the sound. A voice calling her name. She turned. At the base of the hill stood a man. Tall, pale, hair too neatly styled for island heat, dressed in the kind of city linen that wrinkles on contact with real life. Ava froze. Her body reacted before her mind caught up. "Alex," she whispered. Cal looked between them, his face unreadable. The man climbed toward them, his expression strained. "Ava, thank God, you weren't answering emails or your phone. I didn't even know which island. How did you find me?" she asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. "I spoke to your sister. She told me you came here alone. I took a chance." Cal stepped back, his posture neutral but watchful. Alex ignored him, his gaze locked on Ava. "Look, I know things ended badly. I said things I didn't mean. I've been in therapy, I've been trying, I thought if I could see you just once." "Why?" she said, trembling. "To fix something that already broke?" Alex hesitated. "No. Maybe. I don't. No. I've been a wreck, Eva. You disappeared and I couldn't breathe." Eva laughed bitterly. "You couldn't breathe? You don't know what it's like to lose someone and have everyone expect you to just keep moving." "I know I was selfish," Alex said, "but I loved you, I still do." The words hit like rain on parched earth, not refreshing but muddying. Cal looked away. "I need a moment," Ava said, stepping past them both, toward the ridge's edge where the ocean waited like a question she couldn't answer. Her heart beat in her throat. Alex's presence was a rupture in her careful stillness, and Cal was now a shadow cast in the middle of that storm. Back at the villa, the night was colder. Alex had taken a guest room in a resort down the beach. Cal hadn't said much on the walk back, just a quiet, "Take care of yourself," before disappearing into the trees. Eva stood on the porch, watching fireflies hover like tiny ghosts, feeling the past and future collide inside her. What had started as a refuge now felt like a crossroads, and the island, once silent, suddenly pulsed with choices. The sky cracked open that night, not with thunder, but with memory. Eva lay awake, listening to the wind rattle the shutters like an impatient hand, heart heavy with too many ghosts. Outside, the sea sighed in endless rhythm. Inside, everything stilled into confusion. Alex had left her a note, neat, folded, impersonal, in its careful apology. "I'll give you space. I'm here if you want to talk. No pressure, just don't vanish." Again. But that was the problem, she hadn't vanished. She'd come here to finally exist. By dawn, she found herself walking, fast and without aim, until her feet led her to Cal's shack at the edge of the forest. It wasn't much, driftwood, tin roofing, open-air kitchen, but it felt more solid than anything else in her life. He was already up, sitting barefoot on a fallen log, stringing shells onto a line of twine. A ritual she didn't understand. "You came," he said quietly, without looking up. "I didn't know where else to go." His fingers paused. "That's not always a good reason." She stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just need to talk. Or maybe be silent in the right place." Cal tied a knot and set the shells aside. "Sit." They sat in silence for minutes that felt like hours. The wind moved through the trees like a breath too long held. Finally, Ava spoke. "He cheated," she said. "Alex, 3 months after Michael died, I caught him with someone else. A friend, actually." Cal didn't flinch. "And then he disappeared?" "No. Then he said it was my fault, that I was lost in grief, that I made it hard to love me. And maybe I did. I was numb, I was barely there, but I wasn't unfaithful." Cal stared into the trees. "It's easy to blame someone who's hurting. Makes it easier to avoid our own reflection." Eva laughed bitterly. "He didn't come here for me. He came to clear his conscience." "Maybe," Cal said. "Or maybe he really believes he still loves you." She looked at him, searching. "And you? What do you believe?" Cal hesitated. Then, I believe sometimes we mistake gravity for love. We fall toward what's familiar even when it hurts. She stood. So what's happening between us? Is it just gravity? His eyes met hers, steady and quiet. No. But it's not love yet either. It's something that needs air and time and truth. Ava felt tears sting, not from pain, but from the rawness of honesty. I want to choose differently this time, she whispered, but I'm terrified I'll mess it up again. He rose and came to her, placing a hand over her heart without touching it. Then don't choose yet. Let it become. Let it earn its name. She closed her eyes, breathing in the scent of salt, wood smoke, and something warm she hadn't let herself feel in months. Later that day, she met Alex at the cafe down the beach. He looked hopeful, nervous. She let him speak uninterrupted. He talked of therapy, loneliness, regret. But he never once said her name like he used to, like it meant something deep. I forgive you, she said at last. But I can't go back. Not because I hate you, because I've changed. Alex didn't protest. He nodded, eyes damp. That's fair. When he left, it felt like closing a door that had been left ajar far too long. Eva returned to the ridge alone at sunset. The island pulsed below, wild and unbroken. Cal stood waiting, not because she promised she'd come, but because he trusted she might. I let him go, she said. Cal said nothing. Just opened his arms, and for the first time in what felt like years, she stepped forward, not to escape, but to arrive. The days that followed unfolded like a tide finally settling. No rush. No promises. Just presence. Eva moved slower now, intentionally, deliberately, touching the world around her as if for the first time. She watched ants carry bits of mango across the porch rail, let seawater soak the hem of her dress without flinching, woke early to sit on the sand and listen to silence, and to herself, and Cal. He remained steady, not intrusive, not waiting, just there. They walked together sometimes, gathering fallen guava, collecting shells, sharing meals in quiet harmony. But the space between them was sacred, unrushed, unclaimed. One morning she found a small carving on her doorstep, a smooth piece of driftwood shaped into a wave. On the underside, the initials EM, hers, and a tiny spiral next to it. Shivar clutched it like an anchor. Later she asked him, "What does the spiral mean?" Cal smiled, not looking up from the net he was mending. "It's the Maori symbol for growth, new beginnings, the unfurling fern." She traced it with her thumb. "So you think I'm growing?" "I think you're remembering who you were before the world taught you to be afraid." Ava felt her breath catch. Not because of what he said, but because it was true. The Ava who had landed on the island was exhausted from performing strength. This Ava was learning that real strength often looks like surrender. That night, a local family invited them to a fire gathering near the southern cliffs. Music floated across the dark, mingled with the scent of grilled breadfruit and spiced rum. Flames danced high, lighting up the curves of every smile, every wrinkle, every quiet moment of shared history. Eva stood at the edge, feeling both a part and a part of it all. Cal came to stand beside her. "Thinking of leaving?" She didn't answer right away. "I was," she said. "But now I'm not sure what I'd be leaving for." He looked at her. "Do you think you'll stay because of me?" She met his gaze, calm and clear. "No. I'll stay because of me. Because I don't want to run anymore." A pause. "And if you're part of what staying looks like," she added softly, "then that's something I want to grow toward, not cling to." His expression broke into the first real smile she'd seen. Open, full, unguarded. Under the stars, he took her hand. Not as possession, not as a promise, but as an offering. They walked home in silence, fingers laced. Weeks later, Eva sat on the beach alone. The sun was setting like it always did, effortlessly spectacular. In her lap rested a notebook. Not her old grief journal, but a new one. This page she finally filled. I thought I came here to forget. But forgetting was never the point. I came to remember what love feels like when it isn't born of fear, what it means to stay present, to choose peace without abandoning passion. I don't know where Cal and I go from here. Maybe this island is just the beginning. But for the first time, I'm not chasing closure. I'm living in the unfolding. She looked up and saw Cal walking down the beach, carrying 2 cups of ginger tea and humming something half-forgotten. He spotted her and waved, and in his smile, she saw something she'd almost stopped believing in. Home. Not a place, not a person, a state of becoming.